Oh, hello there. Yes, well, a little bit later today. I was waiting to see overnight if any news was going to come through from our glorious leader about what was going on, but of course it didn't. Such is the nature of British media. Inevitably, negative news stories aren't real. They don't exist. And if they do exist, we'll just ignore them. Of course, yes, the news finally percolating out after a few days about Nathan Gill. Ex something according to Reform, but probably according to Reform, not actually the ex-leader of Reform in Wales, a man with a interesting past, inevitably, as there always do, but strangely has been arrested on counter-terrorism charges. Ooh, that's a bit strange. Yes, and he's not even Muslim. That is odd, isn't it? Yes. Anyway, man accused of taking bribes from the Russian state to talk down Britain. Good grief. And a patriot as well. The man's a proud patriot according to, well, his Still Up Twitter page. Yes. And of course the reaction of, well, first of all, the Reform Party is just to say, well, he wasn't a member, which is very odd as he was the leader of the party in Wales and has been pictured next to them. Here he is in this picture next to, well, not so much Richard Tice as, well, yes, the glorious leader. And oddly, perhaps most oddly yesterday in terms of it being a non-story was that GB News themselves, yes, that our glorious leaders station actually printed up the story. And you can have a look at that down for yourself. The comments underneath are basically along the lines of not believing a word of it because, of course, our glorious leader wouldn't do that. Would they? No, of course not. You see, we do live in such wonderful times that otherwise rational people cannot possibly believe anything negative about their side. It's one of the reasons why I must be a bad person and I must be a Labour supporter and I must be all those other things that people want me to be, because I must be, because otherwise then they'd have to ask themselves some questions. Still, we will see. The Mr. Glorious Gill is going to be up on trial in front of the Beak in March, and no doubt more interesting revelations will arise. But we already know that these people are very heavily involved in taking money from a wide variety of different sources, and they don't really care where it comes from. I have highlighted before that nobody has questioned still the New Culture Forum being handed loads and loads of money from a disabled charity who also fund a great many people in Tufton Street. You know, all that great work that Tufton Street does for disabled people. Strange, isn't it? Anyway, Nigel Farage's show last night was actually still on GB News because, of course, the glorious leader hasn't done anything wrong, because the glorious leader doesn't. And they covered his speech in full on from Cornwall about how bad the Labour Party is and how Reform are wonderful and something. Yes, it's not a propaganda channel, though, you understand. And of course, we will see with this one. But my God, it really has reached something when something as innocuous as, well, being a traitor is simply brushed under the carpet. I mean, they wouldn't do that with Boris. Yes. Anyway, you can, if you want to, read the full Russia report, which, if you recall, from several years ago was finally released, except it's heavily redacted and doesn't manage to say anything at all about anybody, because, of course, we all know that none of our glorious leaders, not the bad ones, you understand, but the good ones, would ever do anything wrong. They would never take dubious money simply to sell you down the river, would they? And certainly not our glorious Nigel. And If he was to do that, then GB News would be all over it, wouldn't they? Definitely. Yeah, definitely.